Hmm?
Talking about bug snacks. Let's see here. Make sure we're live. Oops. Mic check 1 2 1 2. Go ahead, Lou.
What's up?
Mic check 1 2 1 2. Go ahead, Lou.
What's up?
All right, we are Gucci.
All right.
We are straight away. Give me one more second, Lou. I apologize.
That's fine.
I'm glad we're the super best friends. All right, we are Gucci. Yo, what it do, GG Nation, GG Legion. It's your fella again, Straussman the GG. Welcome to another spoiler cast. And I got NYK Nation, aka himself, Lou. What up, Joel? How you doing? Welcome, welcome. We're gonna talk about the first big, well, one of the first big PS5 exclusives, slash PS4 a little bit as well, but PS5 launch title, Miles Morales, Marvel Spider-Man Miles Morales. I got Lou here with me. Skip to my Lou. How you doing, Lou?
Good, good. Everything's good today.
Yep, everything's good today. Shout out to my cousin JJ. He's been really busy. He wanted to be part of this, but we got to keep the show rolling. We're going to try to get you a pod next week about the Game Awards prediction show. We're going to try to do that next week. I'm going to try to wrangle as many people as I can next week, and we're just going to have to roll on that one. Lou and I will also be doing a spoiler cast on Demon Souls and Bug Snacks once we get through them. We're still working through them right now. I'm on my fourth playthrough of Spider-Man Miles Morales as we speak, and I want to stream that with you guys. Probably through the PlayStation. We'll probably get it tomorrow. Also, happy Thanksgiving to everybody. It's Happy Thanksgiving Eve right now. Hopefully you guys eat a lot, have a good time, be safe on Black Friday, get all the goodies you want. I know it's a tough time for a lot of people, but we're here to have fun. Let's talk some fun. And also, we're going straight into it, guys. It's straight spoilers. We're going to go right down the middle. So if you don't want to be spoiled and you still want to enjoy this game, you can play it on PS4. You get a free upgrade to the PS5 version. You got to play it 2 times for the plat, but it might be worth it. It's not so long that that second playthrough you can kind of get through. It's where Lou and I were kind of struggling in our third and fourth to kind of get through it a little bit. But hey, I hope everybody has a good Thanksgiving, great Thanksgiving with their fam. Go Lions. Let's get into it. Okay, spoilers. We're going to get into it. But I actually want to start out with Lou brought up this great idea, and this is why he gets paid the big bucks. I forgot this on the spoiler cast, is the PS5 and PS4 versions of the game. The fidelity in 4K 60. As we just said, Lou's got both platinums. He did 4 playthroughs of Miles Morales. I'm on my 4th one. I played it on fidelity and 4K 60 frames on PS5. Lou did the same. There is none of those modes on PS4. Just stressing that. But Lou, what did you think overall, since we did play both of them, of the differences between the PS5 and PS4 version? Were they night and day for you? What'd you think?
I personally thought the PS5 one ran a lot smoother. Of course, it should. The PS4 one, it was still good. It was still very, very good. There was some noticeable stuff that probably need to be cleaned up in a patch for the PS4 version of Spider-Man.
Yeah.
But the PS5 one was very clean. Infidel, and then 4K. So, it was a pleasure to play the PS5 version because I basically played 2 different versions of the game.
Yes.
And then when you went to the PS4 one, it was a different version. It's kind of like going from, the Fidel mode to 4K to PS4.
Yes.
Then that fourth playthrough felt like a little bit of a drag because it was
Yeah.
kind of like the same thing.
um.
But
Go ahead.
yeah, go ahead. What was you gonna say?
No, go ahead. Go ahead. I thought you were done. I apologize.
No, personally, I thought it was a great way to kind of like see the differences of PS5 and uh, PS4 of how big of a margin PS5 has over PS4 right now.
Yeah.
I guess you would say, and it's only going to get bigger.
Yeah. Those are all fantastic points, man. Man, it's like night and day, dude. It is weird to say. I mean, we can explain. Lou and I are very lucky to get a PS5. I know a
Yes,
lot of
very
you are still
fortunate.
struggling. Best of luck to everybody that's in an hour and a half trying to get a PS5 from Walmart right now. Best of luck. I hope you guys are waiting. I know a lot of you are um, struggling to get one. It's really tough. Don't pay in or give into the scalper money. But it is really night and day, and we're not bragging when we say it, man. When I played it, fidelity mode, 4K fidelity mode, which is 30 frames per second. And it has the better rate tracing and light effects and shadows and stuff like that. I thought it looked incredible until I put it in 4K 60.
Yeah.
Then, when I put it in 4K 60 on the second playthrough, I'm like, damn, this is the way to play Spider-Man. This is the way to probably play most games. Most of you PC peeps are probably lived in that world for a long time. But, man, it was absolutely fantastic to see Spider-Man in 4K 60. Even me not having a 4K TV, it is a huge difference. I mean, a huge difference of graphical wise, especially even just fidelity mode to PS4. PS4, it's hard for me to say this because we had a fantastic 7 years of PS4, and for Lou and I, it's done for us and many others. We are on to PS5, and we're seeing the power of the PS5. I still think Demon Souls probably really shows that raw power
Yeah.
still, because you can't play that anywhere else besides a PS5. But I must say, wow, like it is a huge difference playing in the 4K 60 mode and going down to the PS4. It was like, wow, this really kind of looks like a PS4 game, which kind of seems like an insult, but it's not. But there is a difference. What Lou was saying earlier, there is a huge difference between the two versions of the game, and it's hard to explain it. I mean, we talked about the haptic feedback in the controller a little bit, and the what's it called, the how fast the PS5 is. Even though we're playing the PS4 version and there's loading screens, it's still like that. It's still pretty quick. They did put subway scenes into the PS4 version, which there's none of that in the PS5. When you fast travel in the PS5, it is gone. You're just there. Boom. You instantly
Yeah,
loads
you're
up.
there. Yep.
You're right there. They did only have, I think they only have 2 scenes in the subway, but still, the fact that they did any at all is absolutely amazing. Did I finally get a 4K TV? No, I did not, Joel. But you can still tell the difference. The PS5 shows its power still when you're playing it in 4K. See, I could tell it looks way freaking better. Even when I'm playing some PS4 games, like the show, I could tell it looks better. It's sharper. It's cleaner.
Yeah, I have a 4K TV, and you could just like. There's a difference. There's a difference with
There is a big difference, man. There's a huge difference, and it's hard to explain it. Like, you guys still, or most of you are still in that PS4 world, which is kind of crazy to say. Again, I'm not ragging on anybody, but you're kind of still there, and it's hard to, until you actually experience how quick next gen is, PS5 or Xbox Series X. Like, it's hard to describe it just like that. It's just super damn fast. It's super quick, and the graphics look really great. And Lou brought up a great point. It's only gonna get better. This is the beginning of the console generation, and if you talk about this game as a launch game, compare like this and Demon Souls and Bugsnax and Sackboy / Astrobot as well. if you compare those 5 games to like Knack and Killzone for 7 years ago for the PS4, it's so much better. The launch lineup is incredible of the PS5, and I'm gonna get into the problems I have with Miles Morales in a second here, but we just wanted to talk about the 4K 60 / PS5 PS4 modes of the game. Let's talk about some of the new abilities / the combat of the game. What makes Miles Morales a little bit different than Peter Parker, Lou, that you liked?
He feels like a very overpowered Spider-Man to me.
Overpowered,
that's what I feel like. Yeah, he feels like a Spider-Man that can finish fights quickly because of his ability.
Yes.
Which I know we're gonna talk about, and
you can go ahead. You can talk. I mean, we're in spoiler mode. We're just.
Yeah, I mean, like it when you get into them combats with Peter from PS4 version remastered on PS5.
Oh, also spoilers on Spider-Man PS4. I know it's like a 3-year-old game, but spoilers
and Spider-Man
on that
PS5
because
if you haven't played it on PS4 and you just played it now on a PS5 remastered, spoilers on that.
Giving everybody a fair warning. We're going to talk because they are very connected, and we're going to talk about where we think it's going to go. So I'm just going to give everybody a heads up on that. Go ahead, Lou. I apologize.
I've always felt that Peter was kind of like the crafty, he used his gadgets type of dude.
Mm-hmm.
Then when I played with Miles, he felt like a guy that you could just go in and you don't have to use the gadgets. You don't have to be as crafty. He's still crafty, but he just feels like a guy that is very overpowered to his enemies. I don't know if that makes any sense.
No, I exactly know what you're saying. Great points. I mean, a lot of great points. I see what they tried to do with the specific enemies. They tried to make, like, the Underground specifically, and we'll talk about them in a second when we get to characters. But the bioelectricity he has, this is the cool part about Miles Morales. He has bioelectricity, he has camouflage. Lou made a great point. He didn't really have a lot of gadgets. You know, he's a kid. He's basically taken Peter Parker's spot here as a teenager. The Peter we're playing is grown up. He's in his college years. He's wanting to continue his relationship with Mary Jane. And that's kind of the excuse in this game, right? That's kind of the excuse why Peter's not here. Spoilers for DLC 3 of Spider-Man PS4. But Lou and I were thinking about a while, and JJ and I did a bunch of spoiler casts on Spider-Man. That, that Peter was going to be gone from this game. Something was going to happen. Like, he was going to be gone. He's going to be on vacation or something. And it ends up being true. He ends up going to MJ to secure. I forgot. I don't know how to say it. The Silver Sable's country. Is it? I want to say Sakura, but that's not what it is. It's something. It's like I don't know. Look, correct me down below in the comment section. But that's kind of the excuse for Peter to get away, and this is how Miles' story kind of begins and unravels. But the cool part about him is that he's not a copy and paste clone of Peter Parker. The bioelectricity, the Venom jump, the Venom dash, the Venom punch, the invisibility, and again, he doesn't have that much tech because, like Lou just said, that Peter's kind of more of the tech guy. He has a bunch of gadgets. Like, Peter has a ton of gadgets. So I'm interested to see how they handle that with the next Spider-Man going forward, like gadget-wise, and how they're going to intertwine Miles. But I thought the new abilities and combats for the Underground, they tried to make the Underground very hard to beat if you didn't use your bioelectricity. The whole point about combat in this game was the bioelectricity. Go ahead, Lou. You had something to say?
No. I was agreeing with you there. Yes, you're right. In terms of the Underground was kind of if you didn't use that, they would overpower Spider-Man. And I think that we see more of that as we go on in the game, but we'll get to that later.
Yes.
So
you're You're absolutely right about that. Like, that's the whole point, because they were not prepared for it. They don't understand. Like, they didn't know that this new Spider-Man has these abilities.
Yep.
And that was this game's version to try to differentiate from using gadgets, because again, you only have 4. And I actually really didn't like Decoy at all. I don't know how Lou felt. I liked the.
I liked the Decoy. It was okay.
I didn't really enjoy that one. I never really used that one. The web shooters, of course, that's the one gadget I primarily used, of course. The other two were, I'm trying to remember, I apologize. Remote mines, which I actually really liked. Liked the remote mines; those were really cool. And then you had the, I don't know if it's called the whirlwind. I forgot what, but it sucks people in. That's pretty cool. If you put a remote mine down and then you shoot a whirlwind to drag everybody in there, and then you just explode the mine, it's awesome. It's really cool. But the, like, 3 out of the 4 I kind of enjoyed. What about you, Lou?
I like the mines. I did use what do they call it? It's like holographs or something.
Yeah, holoclone or something, or holodrone, something.
Yeah, I did use that. If I felt that I was overwhelmed, I would just throw them all there so they would concentrate on the little people for a second.
Yes.
While I took care of the bigger enemies, or the underground that would kind of give me a hard time at the moment because they would overpower Miles's ability if you didn't have it charged up.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, I thought that I used them all pretty well, and I didn't have a problem with his gadgets.
Yeah.
I do think that if we gave him more gadgets, though, he would probably be the better of the two Spider-Mans between him and Peter. So
yeah, they had to do something to differentiate him, and I know what you mean by overpowered. What you said earlier, because he can go invisible and just run away, and then they go back to stealth. I do really appreciate the stealth in this game, like the first game. The stealth was really good, I feel like, but again, I agree with Lou on a lot of points in the said part of he can feel a little overpowered with not only his bioelectricity, but the camouflage and stuff like that, because early on you can't be camoed for long, but once you get midway through and you get that ability, I mean, you can stay invisible almost like forever. Like it feels like you can stay cloaked for a long time. But again, I still overall appreciated the hideouts, the Roxxon Labs, and some of the stealth sections in the game. The combat felt really good. Some of it a little samey, but of course it's a Spider-Man game. They're going to continue what they built upon in 2018. I want to talk about, and this is what JJ said, so it would have been interesting to have him on here. We can have him explain it later, but he felt like this was the best DLC ever. Like a DLC. He didn't feel like this was a full game. And I feel where he's coming from a little bit. But I also would feel like this is, like, mechanically, this is really Spider-Man 2, but what is the big issue of putting a 2 at the end of this game?
It's not long enough.
Yes, the expectations would go through the roof for this game.
Yeah.
And it would cause it a lot of problems, because in a lot of ways this game is Lost Legacy. You know, Uncharted Lost Legacy kind of continued the story, but you were a different character. But still, this is a little different because you are a different character, but it really is a continuation of the last game. So in a lot of ways, I would say this is Spider-Man 2, but I do see where people are coming from saying this is like a DLC. How'd you feel about this? Does this feel like a Lost Legacy? Does it feel like a Spider-Man 2? Does it feel like a DLC? Over-glorified DLC? How'd you feel about it, Lou?
Well, it's short like a DLC. There's not really much to do in terms of... when I went and played Spider-Man Remastered, I noticed there was a lot to do. Side missions, collectibles.
You're right about that, Joel. You're right about that, Joel. Go ahead, Blue.
There's a whole lot of stuff to do in the first Spider-Man. That's not just story related. And this one, everything was kind of cut in half.
Yeah,
Even the side missions, some of the like the cup, they only had 7 side missions in the game, and like two
yes,
of them would to go pick up, 2 or 3 of them would to go pick up new suits.
and a
So,
cat.
yep, yep, and I mean, I see where he's coming from though,
Mm,
because if we were going, let's just say back 3 years, I'm just gonna put a number on it, say 3. Um, that this would be considered DLC, but I mean now it's kind of like a standalone game.
yeah,
Like we've seen DLCs be shorter than this game.
yeah. I think this
Less
is too
content.
much to be DLC because some DLCs are like 2 or 3 hours long. This is
Yeah,
about it. If you're just going, let's just say normal pace. If you're not just trying to fly through, if you're doing some side stuff, because the game tells you to take breaks and do side stuff at certain points of the game. That's painfully obvious when you're trying to platinum it, and you're sitting there waiting for the next prompt for the next, that phone call or whatever. Uh,
yeah.
um, it's too long. It's a weird hybrid. Because to me, 8 to 10 hours is not bad for a game length. Not every game needs to be a Persona 5. I don't need a 100-hour experience. I don't need a 40 to
20
50-hour experience
hours.
in God of War. Some
Yeah.
games are good enough to be 8 to 10 hours, and I think that's a really good average length of this game. Story slash, doing side activities, not everything. You're not doing everything. You and me platinum the PS5 version in 22 hours. Will probably be pretty similar to the PS4 version. Because
I think the PS4
three or four trophies.
version. I think the PS4 version I did it in 14. Just because my full playthrough, I skipped every cutscene imaginable.
Yes.
Um,
Yeah.
So, because I mean, I've already seen it 4 times.
Yeah.
So
I think this is like a weird hybrid of Lost Legacy, but an actual legit continuation of Spider. Because we know this is going into Spider-Man 2, where Lost Legacy didn't. It was just Chloe and Nadine's story. It didn't really have nothing to do with Nathan Drake. In terms, this still has a lot of stuff that's gonna happen in Spider-Man 2. It is a direct continuation of that. And we don't know if we're going to get another Uncharted. There's those rumors of Sony San Diego, the second team there working on an Uncharted 5. But we don't know that. That's not confirmed, right? So, but we already know, technically Spider-Man 2 hasn't been confirmed either. But we already know. We know that shit is happening. Especially with the 2 post-credit cutscenes of this game. Helps you remind you. Again, I think it's a weird hybrid. I see where everybody's coming from. I think it's a weird hybrid of Lost Legacy. Like, it's a little too big to be a DLC, to charge somebody a DLC for this. And it has enough new elements in it to be a full-fledged game. This game is not full price. It's not $70. It is $50. $40 on PS4. Things went up $10 on PS5. I know a lot of people are pissed about that too, but it's a story for another day. But if you do pay the $70 version of this, what Lou said, you get Spider-Man PS4 remastered with new Peter Parker face and everything, and all the DLC, and another trophy list for a plat. I can't wait to dive back into that one again. I think it's caught in this weird in between, and Joel is right what he said earlier, is that Spider-Man 2, people would expect it to be Peter Parker, and he's right. He's absolutely right.
yes,
I think Sony is going in this weird trend of getting rid of. I shouldn't say weird trend. I think they're going on this certain trend of getting rid of numbers and going subtitles now.
surnames,
Yes.
surnames, yeah,
Yeah, where you're not. Yeah, yeah, yeah. You're right. Where they're not doing the thing to keep, like we just said earlier, the expectations a little lower. Some games you're not going to escape it, like Last of Us and God of War. God of War 2018 or God of War 4, whatever you want to call it, won Game of the Year. So it don't matter if you call it God of War Ragnarok or God of War 2, it's still going to have huge expectations to try to, in so-called way, meet those expectations. But I really think this is a weird, interesting hybrid. I think it's its own type of game. the problems I have with it, we'll get into it story wise. Let's talk about some of the new characters now. Let's get into that. Let's go into that direction. Unless you had any more to say about the length or anything of this game.
Well, I just think that DLC has changed over the course of the years, and you know, DLC is more like 2 hours, new maps, or what we see now. And I think that by today's definition, and the story was fulfilling to me for it to be a game.
Yeah.
So
the story was long enough to be a full game to me, and maybe the new fancy look of the PS5 too. Maybe that's part of it. If we're judging this just on a launch title, this is fantastic.
Yeah.
But I see the Metascore and why it is a little bit lower than Spider-Man 2018 because it's not quite there yet. I think both of these Spider-Man stories haven't hit the Game of the Year high for me yet, even though Spider-Man PS4 got nominated for Game of the Year in 2018, but that was just a crazy year. I mean, there were so many great games that year. That was just one of those best years of gaming in a long time. But let's go into some of the new characters a little bit in this story, and some things they retconned and they put in here. Let's start with Simon Krieger. He's kind of the typical Troy Baker guy here.
Yeah.
The typical Simon, Troy Baker. Troy Baker does a great job, by the way, as him. He does such a good job. It's hard to tell if it really is him. I just, because of my 3D audio headset, I was like, is that Troy? And I was asking Lou, and I'm like, I think so. And Lou's like, I think so. And then JJ was texting me, I think it is Troy. I don't know. And then we found out it was Troy Baker. So shout out to him. He's in every game. But he's kind of the corporate big bad of this game. He's normally known as like a B, C list Iron Man villain. But he's used here in Spider-Man as the big tech billionaire guy that seems really nice, but you clearly tell he's evil. But how did you feel about him?
I just felt like he was a villain that is on his way of being a bigger villain. I don't know. I just felt like that he was there and he did bad things, and as you seen during the game. But he was not. He didn't really do anything to me that we haven't seen. He doesn't really separate himself from other villains. He's just your normal, typical villain.
Yes.
That will probably be put over bigger, and I don't know, maybe Spider-Man 3 or 2, whenever they decide to bring it back, or it could just be a runoff, or we'll never hear from him again.
Yeah, I mean, you're gonna have to have your B-list guys, but it seemed a lot like Far Cry to me. Like they have this cool villain, maybe, or they'll have a villain and he'll just kind of be there, but not really there. Like, if that makes sense, if you guys understand what I'm saying.
Yeah, it's kind of annoying, but he's just there to fill the need of a villain. That's kind of what I took from him. So
yeah, I think you're absolutely right. But it's interesting to find out. Maybe they're doing some world building because he's normally known as an Iron Man villain. So maybe we'll see. We'll see where it goes. We'll talk about that. What I want them to do in a second. Again, spoilers. Let's talk about Finn Mason / the Tinkerer, the other type of the baddie in this game. How'd you feel about Finn overall, and what they did with the Tinkerer? Because Tinkerer is another C-lister that they kind of changed, and gender swapped a little bit. But I kind of liked what they did. But go ahead, continue. What'd you think of Finn Mason / the Tinkerer?
I thought it was a nice little change. I thought that was the Tinkerer's usually an older person, right?
Yeah,
that's how the story.
Older dude that's kind of a C-lister. He's not really a known villain. He was in Spider-Man Far From Home, and most people didn't even know that was the Tinkerer. You had to look through the credits for it to say the Tinkerer. But he made in that movie, he made all the tech for the Vulture and Shocker and all them. But go ahead.
Yes. But I thought that this was a nice change to use the Tinkerer in terms of probably bigger than what they used them before.
Yeah.
You know,
They try to make this a very personal story between Finn and Miles.
and I know it's supposed to be a brotherly, sisterly relationship that they viewed it
That's
as,
where
but
they really kind of push it to us. Yeah, go ahead.
yeah, I think it's more of his dad does and his her brother does, but you know they could have really went another way with that if they wanted to, because they kind of opened the door in some aspects, but
Yeah.
I think that kind of using her as a tinkerer with the relationship she has with Miles, you know, I think that puts that character over more. So,
Yeah.
the Tinkerer, and you know, it gives him a purpose instead of just making weapons, like they have in the universe. So,
Yeah. Yeah.
I liked it. I thought that was very smart, out of the box idea. You know, and they did a good job with it.
Yeah.
So,
I think overall, I did really enjoy Finn as the Tinkerer. Um,
and in all honesty, though, I kind of took her more as the villain slash like friend, like the frenemy, than I did
yeah, like the
Simon.
anti-hero. Like she was the main. I would consider her the main villain of the game
Yes.
for sure. She's fantastic boss fight in the end. Interesting tech.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, there's some things you got to get over, and I'll explain about that a little bit later. I know we kind of spoil again. It's spoiler cast. We spoiled who she is already. I do have problems with Finn and the cast overall. I do have a decent amount of issues. Enough, not enough to hurt the game. Like I had a lot of fun with this game. Like when you're just swinging around and fucking playing this
Yeah.
game, it's just so damn fun. Let's talk about her brother Rick Mason, who is the Roxxon head engineer, right? I think he was the head engineer.
Yes.
Joel had one thing to say really quick. I hate random villains just to pad out storyline. I get what you're saying, but in comic book type stuff, you kind of need to have those guys. But I hear what you're saying, Joel. I do it with Simon Krieger. Rick Mason's kind of the glue that kind of kept Finn and Miles together, and also the person that kind of separates them a little bit. Because of his tragedy that happens to him, and it takes Finn in another direction. But I feel like, and I apologize to Lou, I kind of took some of the spot here a little bit.
No,
feel like
go ahead and do your thing.
I feel like he could. A lot of the complaints I have with this game, I think, is just because the length of, like, not enough to pad out some stuff. Like, some of the story to me felt a little rushed, and I'll explain myself a little bit later. And one of those points is Rick Mason. But go ahead. What'd you think of Rick Mason?
I really didn't have a problem with Rick Mason. I thought that he was a very key aspect of the story. You know,
Yeah.
I thought that Rick Mason probably had, in my opinion, was probably the biggest. His character was the biggest part of Miles Morales' story, in so many different ways, of what's going on, the relationship with Finn and Miles. I think it's very, his character is very big for this game, and I really didn't have a problem with it, but I do see your point. And
well, I'll go in more detail as we're getting close to the story stuff. We only got a couple more characters to talk about.
Yeah. But I don't want to get into, details yet.
Yeah.
So
I'll explain myself. There's a lot of symmetry with all these characters that I want to point out in a second here. Let's talk about, Uncle Aaron / the Prowler. Again, spoilers.
Yeah.
We're in a spoiler cast. Most of you that saw Into the Spider-Verse already knew about this. You already knew who Prowler was. I really like his design in this game, and I like, for the most part, where they take him in this game, and we'll talk about it a little bit later. But but he kind of plays a central role a little bit as kind of a anti-hero-ish type character in this, I would say. But what'd you think of the Prowler / Aaron?
I think I like the direction that they're going with him. I don't think we'll see him in the next game.
Yeah.
It'll
be
I think
interesting to see what they do with the next game.
Yes.
Like, what's going to be the excuse, right? We had the excuse that Peter had to go.
Well, he's
is there going to be
in jail.
An excuse that Miles has to go, or is there going to be a little bit of friction between the two? There's two Spider-Mans.
Well, there's so many ways that you could do that, but the Prowler, as you well know, is I don't want to really get into it, but something happens to him at the end, and he's just gonna be out for a while. So he's gonna be out for a while. He even says it, to Miles, and I think that's kind of like his getaway from the next game, and then he'll probably be in the following game and come in,
that's a good point.
and his character will develop even more.
Well, let's also say full disclosure here. This game, it does not take place in 2020. This game takes place in 2019. It's a year after Spider-Man 2018. So it's all the events of Spider-Man 2018, the tragic death of Miles' dad, which is very new. I like that direction they go with. Miles has his dad in the comics the whole time. And Miles is a little bit younger in the comics, too. He's very much younger. Where this Miles is a little bit older. He's going into high school / college, or is he just going into high school now? It's weird. It's interesting, because he's like 17.
He's in, I think they said he's going to graduate high school soon.
Yeah, so I
think that's what they said.
Yeah, he's at the end of the rope of high school with Miles. Miles Morales here. It's really interesting to see what where they're gonna kind of go with this. But again, it takes place in 2019, so I do appreciate the differences of Miles and what they're trying to do with that character. Let's talk about his best buddy, Genki, which I feel like they did a really great job with Genki in this game as the Yuri of the game.
Yes.
The guy that gives you the phone call that's going to have your back and try to help you out a little bit. Where Yuri was the police chief that was in Spider-Man's ear, helping him out, working with Spider-Man in the first game. Genki is his buddy that knows who he is. He knows he's Spider-Man. He helps work on the tech. That's why there's not a lot of gadgets he has, because Genki and them are in high school working on tech together. They go to this higher class high school for basically science nerds. That's basically what they are science geeks, a little bit.
Yeah.
But I liked Genki in this game a lot, and I liked what his role really was, even though it wasn't. His character arc is kind of the problem with this whole game, in my personal opinion, with everybody's character arc, and I'll explain in a second. I'll explain in a second because we're about to hit the story and just get full nitty gritty. But I did really like Genki. Genki is his buddy in the comics. They brought him in here. A lot of people don't know. A lot of you feel he's pretty much Ned from Spider-Man Far From Home and Spider-Man Homecoming.
Yeah.
He kind of fills that role. He's set Peter Parker as Miles Morales. But this actually is kind of comic continuity a little bit. The Miles Morales comics are still pretty new. They're only about 10 years old, 10 plus years, 10, 11, 12 years old. Spider-Man's been around since like 1960 or something. He's been around forever. But Miles hasn't. So I think this is a nice take and fresh take of story. And I like that Insomniac and Marvel, especially Marvel, letting them do their thing and let them take this game in certain directions, just like how Miles' dad dies. I think that's a really good point. Yes, is it kind of similar to Uncle Ben? A little bit, yeah, a little bit. But I do like what they did with it. How'd you feel about Genki, though?
I don't have a problem with Genki. I thought he's his best friend. They talk about in the story that he's going to stay with him for a little while.
Yep,
Um,
they're it's like
they're on break.
they're on
They're
like
on winter
Christmas
break.
break or something. Yeah, winter break. Yeah,
Yeah, and he's gonna stay and
and
sleep over there.
we forgot to mention I do really like the snow in this game, especially on PS5. The
Yeah,
snow looks freaking awesome. Like it looks really cool. The animations are very fluid with web swinging. He has a ton of new animations. He swings like he is still really new to it. I like that a lot, actually, in this game. Um, let's talk about the final set of characters, which we already talked about a little bit, so we don't need to stay on them. But I think they're probably the worst characters of the game. Is the Underground. I think the Underground are basically there just to be your punching bags. They're the typical baddies, the Black Dragons, the of the first game, essentially. Except they're kind of led by the Tinkerer a little bit. I don't know if they exactly are, but they're being, Finn's kind of helping them out. Let's just say that.
yeah, they're kind of I forgot what exactly they said they were. They were like a mixture of Fisk group and Lee's group or stuff like that.
Yeah, they're kind of trying to
this,
take over They're trying to get rid of Lee and Fisk and all those groups now. And they're
yeah,
trying to
yeah.
take over. They even try to take over the building, right? The Fisk building, which is really interesting. But
Yeah, I think they did though. I think they did take it over.
they did. They did. Yeah. Sorry, they did take it over. But I think they're still. Yeah, they're just kind of cannon fodder. They're just there to be there. They're not really supposed to be anything special or anything.
Yeah, they're not really. They're just there to kind of fill the story, Miles' story. So that's how I felt. That's how I took it. So that's kind of how you just explained it.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. Let's
yeah,
get into the nitty gritty then. Let's talk about the stories, the highs and lows to it. I want to start off a little bit so I don't seem like I'm tiptoeing on all these characters all the time. I want to get in the nitty gritty. Why I have a big, my biggest problem about the story and these characters in general. Simon, Finn, Rick, Genki, the Underground, the Prowler. They're all kind of one note. There's really no change on any character from beginning to end. They're pretty much the same as where they started the game, where they ended the game. And I think, again, a lot of the problem is just the length of the game. They couldn't do as much. Some of the problems I have, they just couldn't do enough with the story. They kind of had to shorten it because obviously this game had to be out for PS5 at launch date. That's my personal take on it. I think they're just a little too one note. Rick Mason, to me, I don't think you really get to know him enough. Like, he's just kind of there. He tragically dies. And I'm making it seem like I'm really harping on the game, but this is what I'm just seeing in my third and fourth playthrough. A lot of this stuff is really sticking out to me a lot more than it did my first playthrough, which I thoroughly enjoyed. I think this game is very solid. But I would agree with the Metascore. It's like an 85. It's like an 84, 85. It's around that area. It's not quite there yet. It's not like, a 90 plus yet for me, the Spider-Man series as a whole. I still feel like Spider-Man 2 is going to be that big jump to like Uncharted 2. From like Uncharted 1 to Uncharted 2, where it's like that is really game of the year. Like that is game of the year. Maybe I just have too much Spider-Man. If you guys don't know, Spider-Man and Wolverine are my two favorite characters of all time. Maybe I just have a higher, a higher ceiling that I want for Spider-Man. Maybe I'm just thinking too high for Spider-Man, because sometimes you're just gonna have to accept some things. You're gonna have to accept silly story circumstances and comic book circumstances, like how the characters go in this game, for example, just with the fighting with Finn. Finn has no superpowers at all, but you go full force into her chest and like slap her like some of that shit you just gotta accept and just go into, like, where Miles does. Miles is genetically he got bit by a spider, so he's just, it's not a sex thing. I'm not trying to not trying to go down that road. But he just has, superpowers, where the Tinkerer does not. Tinkerer does not have powers. So there's just some things you got to get over a little bit. And I understand and I accept that, and that's fun. You just got to have fun with this game. And there is some great highs, and there's also some interesting lows for me. We'll get more into that, but the characters, I apologize, I kind of got off into a little bit of a tangent, but I just think a lot of the characters are a little one-note. I feel like Rick Mason really wasn't there. I kind of like what they did with Prowler as an anti-hero, then he kind of flip-flops as into villain, then / anti-hero, but you made a great point in that you just saw it as him trying to protect his nephew. In a lot of ways. He wasn't trying to go against his nephew. He's trying to make amends. He got a job. He wants to get back into the family. His brother's gone. He wants to get to know Miles. He knows Miles is Spider-Man. But I think a lot of the game for me, I just think a lot of the characters are really, besides Miles, are really one note in a lot of ways. Simon Krieger, really not there, not around. Rick Mason, he dies. Okay, that's Finn's motivation. I get it. Finn is revealed instantly that she is the Tinkerer. I think if there was a little bit more build-up for me, because it's plainly obvious, like when you have that Thanksgiving dinner and she doesn't respond right away, some shit's up. I immediately thought, and I was talking to Lou when I was playing this, I was like, man, I either think it's that Danica chick because she's wearing all purple, or it's Finn. And then, soon as I did the next story mission, got to the bridge, it's Finn. You find out it's just Finn's the Tinkerer, and to me, I think that's just, again, the product of just not having enough time to really flesh it out. And I think that's the biggest problem with a lot of these characters. For me, it's just they didn't flesh out some of it. That's one of my lows of the game. What about you? Did you have any lows in the game? Like, was there anything that you didn't really like story-wise?
I just want to say that I disagree with how you felt. I don't want to put it down or anything like that. But
yeah, I'm not trying to. I wanted to say this out. We're not trying to hate the game. This is just how I really. This is just our personal opinions. We're not trying to hurt anybody in terms of game story. This might, for some people, this might just be the best game. Like, these Spider-Man games might be so much better than God of War, Persona, whatever. That's fine. There's nothing wrong with that. You're allowed to really love that game. Some of you are not looking for a deeper story or anything like that. You might just accept the comic book story and move on. And I think they did a really good job with the personal stuff with Finn and Miles. Go ahead.
I was just going to say, I don't think... When I first played Miles, I didn't think that this was going to be like, oh, he's going to be a big involvement in the universe. So I kind of expected a lot of one-offs. I'm going to use a wrestling term here for their matches. I expected a lot of one-offs, and that's kind of what I got. The Tinkerer was a one-off, but they did a great job of using the Tinkerer as a really great friend, and if people don't know, Rick is the Tinkerer's brother, which is Finn's brother. We don't know much. We're not supposed to know much about Finn's brother from Miles' standpoint, because we don't hang around with Rick. We don't know nothing about Rick. He's older than Finn.
Yeah.
And
the sense is you're supposed to get that they're really close. He got that job at Roxxon. Then something happened. Something happened. And I think we miss a lot of that in this game. And I'm not saying you necessarily need that. And you're right. You just could have some one-offs. But just in my personal opinion, I just think there's there's too many one-notes in this game. Go ahead.
Well, I expected that. That's why I don't think of it as a 2.
That's a fair point.
Because you can't have this as a 2, because let's be fair. Spider-Man is Peter Parker's story.
Yes.
This is Miles Morales' story, and I expected a lot of one-offs, and I expected a lot of things not to carry over to Peter Parker's story.
Yeah.
And basically, none of this is really carrying over to Peter Parker's story. Nothing that happened in this game. Except for maybe the end, the end screen,
There's a few
the
stuff that
teaser.
Miles is going to be a part of Peter Parker. He's part of Peter Parker's world because
Yes, but nothing
he's a
that happens
mentor.
in Miles's story is
Yeah.
going to affect Peter Parker and what's going to happen in his story. Like
Yes.
that stuff might be like side stuff. It might not be like like a major to Peter.
Yeah. That's a good point.
And so like this is major to Miles, because of how much it hit home for him. The Tinkerer is his best friend, or and sometimes I looked at it as the Tinkerer was like could have been a love interest for him.
That's how I
You
saw
know,
it too. I didn't see it as a brother sister thing.
yeah,
Yeah.
and the brother.
But they
Um,
try to hammer that, especially when you get those postcards at the end. They really try to hammer that shit in there.
yes, yes, they try to, but they look at it from again. It's the older people looking at it, and not Finn and Miles looking at it. Like, have you ever heard Finn say, "Miles, you're like a brother to me"?
A little bit. They did mention that they're family.
Their family, yeah.
He goes, we're family, and he goes, she goes, I have no family,
Yeah,
my
she was
family's gone or
referencing.
whatever. Like where
Yeah,
she goes
she was
full like
referencing
heel
her real
turn, where
family.
she's like, I'm not coming back. I'm gonna kill everybody, type thing there.
Yeah. So the way that I took it was a love interest, and who knows from Finn's side, Miles's interest is saying, "Oh, we're family," but that could change. That could easily change.
No, it can't.
Um,
Not anymore.
well, yes, not anymore. You're
Not
right.
anymore.
Yeah, she's dead.
She's gone.
Uh,
Which I
she's
was
gone.
really shocked about that, where they talk about the nuclear power of Roxxon and some of the reactors they're using, and they Miles absorbs a lot of these things, and he has to explode, and that's the big, climactic part, and he couldn't hold it in. He was going to kill everybody, and then Finn sacrifices herself, and that ending where she's just like, "Hey, just let go,"
Yeah.
and then he does, and she's gone. Like she's dead. Like all intents and purposes, he should be dead too. But they're not going to kill him off. You can't kill him off yet. I don't think they're going to kill off Peter Parker anytime soon either. I don't see that happening.
No, that's not going to happen anytime soon.
What I get where you're coming from. Just me from a story perspective. That's fine and dandy and look at it, but I'm just looking at it as a story perspective. I just think that's a little too samey. Too samey note. The notes is the same over and over.
Yeah.
Which
Well, yeah. You're
which
right.
is fine. Again, I'm not hating on anybody's opinion. I'm just saying from my point of view. And this is just abundantly clear as I'm going through the fourth time of this game, to get the plat for PS4. What was some more highs for you though? Like we didn't talk. You were more talking about what I was talking about.
I think the highs for me were, the boss fight was a high for me because I always feel like Sony kind of misses out on the boss fights.
Freaking
Um,
excellent boss fight, and the final boss fight is very excellent.
I think that's important to me is putting over a boss and the boss fight, and technic I viewed the Tinkerer as the boss, but Simon was around, and
You're technically right. She's not the boss of them or anything, but she's the main villain of this game. And they try to go a
Right.
very personal route. It's your best friend. You haven't seen her in a long time. She goes to a different school. You have some flashbacks, very Last of Us Part 2 flashback there at the museum. And it kind of, I think for the most part, they did that really well. Like, their connection, they did pretty well. It's just the glue around it. It's not very strong, in my personal opinion. And I
Yeah.
also don't feel like her connection. I think it would have been better if we knew Finn and Genki kind of existed in the first Spider-Man game a little bit. Because they kind of retcon these characters into this one. And I don't feel like Finn and Miles have that same relationship as Peter and Doc Ock in that first game. It never reaches that critical level to me. Like, that is a much better story. I mean, the facial capture and the recognition in that first game, in that last scene with Doc Ock, where he's like, I fucking knew. And he said that to Peter. And you see all the facial features, like, you know, someone that you really looked up to betrayed you. You know, they kind of had a falling out for a while, and they were kind of reconnecting. But I don't get that same... Again, I just don't get that same feeling. That's why I see why that first game would be considered better by the media and people of Spider-Man games. That's what I'm personally saying. And I don't feel like Finn and Miles are... Like, it's a good direction. It's a great personal direction to go, but never reaches that level, to me personally, as Peter and Doc Ock. My bad for taking over your spot.
No. It's fine, but I think
you're just saying you never had, like, you just saw this as like a one-off, spin-off type game, but in a lot of ways, it is very much connected, Lil. This is a good Miles story. Very, very good Miles story.
Yes.
But Miles is going to be a big part of this. Yeah, I just wonder what they're going to do, and we'll talk about that in a second. But I get what you're saying. I'm just telling everybody. I'm not here to shit on anybody or anything. That's just my personal viewpoint on it. And, again, I think those moments would be higher if we knew Finn and Genki existed in the first game. Right, if they had more world building in the first game, like, hey, these are Miles' best friends, and we knew her. In this game, she's just kind of out of nowhere, is what I'm saying. But again, just some things you're just gonna have to accept, right?
Yeah.
You know, this is with stories like this. There's always, and you brought up a great point to me a while ago. You know, you hate how some of the numbers are messed up, right? We like play Devil May Cry 3. Well, that's technically Devil May Cry 1 because it's a prequel, right? You know, or you brought up that great point to me that, you know, sometimes they mess up with the numbers. And I think that's why Sony's kind of dropping that a little bit, not only to lower expectations, just to keep making fun games and continue this Spider-Man world they're creating, the Spider-Verse they're kind of creating, their Insomniac universes. Because the cool part about this universe is this has never happened before. We have actually 2 Spider-Man from the same universe in this game, which is really cool. And I'm interested to see how they play with that dynamic going forward, in my personal opinion. And that's kind of one of the highs for me, is that they actually have these 2 Spider-Man in this world. Like, are we going to get co-op down the line? Is there going to be an excuse for Miles to leave in the next game and just keep it Peter Parker? You did play as Miles Morales in the first game, but not as a Spider-Man, but, you know, in his stealth sections. And I kind of like that they took a lot of that out, to be honest, a little bit. This game is much shorter, but they kind of took out playing as other people. They just kept it playing as Miles. You're not playing as Genki or anybody else. You're just playing as Miles, and that's it. And I think that was a smart direction to go. That's one of my highs of this game, for sure. And go ahead, Lou. Do you have any highs or lows you still want to continue on?
I think the highs are the boss fight. The lows were the side missions.
Yeah, a little bit, yeah.
It's like, to me, when I went into this, I did not, and I know that you brought up the idea of, you know, this could be a 2. And you're right, it could be a 2, because it's a direct continuation of Peter Parker's
I'm just saying,
story.
In all story purposes, but overall, you and JJ in a lot of ways are right. That's why I kind of see it as Uncharted, Lost Legacy type game. Go ahead.
But I don't view it that way. I don't view Miles as... I view Miles as kind of like a different Spider-Man. In terms of, like... I'm trying to put this into words. Like, Peter Parker's story, like, what happened in Miles Morales, Spider-Man Miles Morales, has nothing to do with Peter Parker right now. Right now. Nothing that happened.
Story.
Yeah, it's just like, this is Miles' story, this is Miles' game. You know, you could take it as a 2, and then Insomniac could, call the next Spider-Man, Spider-Man 2, and
Yeah.
totally bury that idea.
Yeah, that's why we're
But
calling it Spider-Man 2 for right now, because that is a good point. We're not calling it Spider-Man
yeah,
3. We're just going to assume it's
yeah.
Spider-Man 2.
So
I
it's
think most people
um,
understand that. I'm just saying story purposes. That's what I'm saying.
but if we're gonna you know, if we go by JJ calling this a DLC,
Yes, yeah.
this is a fantastic DLC.
It
But
is.
as far as game quality,
If you
it's
just bought a
six.
PS5, this is the game to get. This and Demon Souls are the two to get.
Yes,
Like, these are
but
the
as far
two. This is the reason why you buy a PS5. It's not Godfall, it's not Sackboy. It's these two games. It's Spider-Man, Miles Morales, and Demon Souls. Demon Souls really shows the power of the PS5 a little bit more than Miles, I would say. But Lou is right. It's only going to get better from here, guys. This is the beginning of the generation, and I think this is the best launch lineup Sony's ever had. Like, it's
yeah,
fantastic. And
but
all my
um,
complaints does not make me like I'm not hating on the I'm not this game is very good. It's very fun. I like the story. I like those moments. There's some great highs in this game. There's great lows. I'm just saying for me because I'm going through it again. I'm on my fourth playthrough.
yeah. I mean, I know where you're coming from,
Yeah.
and hopefully everybody that's watching knows where you're coming from.
I think
Um,
so. I mean,
but
again, it's just our opinion. We're not ripping the game apart. I'm not.
yeah,
I'm not. I'm just saying what I really think about some of the moments. And some, I think it is a little same notey for some characters, and that's fine. Like
uh,
you said, this is This is just Miles' story. It's not going to really affect Peter too much. Pretty like you said, it's just his what's going on with Miles. This is his side story. He'll be incorporated probably somehow in the next Spider-Man going forward, or he'll get another standalone game, side game. Um,
but I will say that there's a difference though because I noticed going into it, I did not have high expectations.
yes,
And I think you going into it, I don't want to say you had high expectations, but I think you're noticing a lot of one-offs and all that type of stuff, and that it's not really doing much for the overall story of
yeah,
Peter Parker's world. And like I said, and I think that's kind of why I look at this game as a very good game. I see JJ's point that it could be a DLC with the lackluster content of side missions and stuff
yeah,
compared to
yeah.
Spider-Man
I don't know what.
Remastered.
I don't know why this year was really big on cat side missions, but like, I feel like every fucking game we played, there was a cat side mission. There's
Well,
two in
yeah,
this one. Final Fantasy VII Remake had one. It's like, jeez. Okay,
but
like, change it up.
I,
Make it a dog, a wolf, a pony,
I,
something. Change it.
I think I think overall though um that this game is, to me, I thought it's better than what I expected it to be,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
then it kind of fulfilled what I was going into. Like if we talked about what we expected for Miles Morales, before the game came out, I probably would have said that I don't expect too much.
Yeah.
And to be honest, it kind of did that for me. There's a lot of one-offs and,
Yeah.
a lot of, you know, storylines, I guess you would say, that are on hold. With the Prowler and, Simon and all that type of stuff like that. That storyline is basically on hold because they're in jail. So, what
Yeah.
happens going forward?
I find it hard to believe that Simon will be staying in jail for long. Like a super rich billionaire, I'm pretty sure he'll be getting out pretty soon.
Well, they said the same thing about the Kingpin, and he's still in jail.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
he and
That
he
was
should,
a
and I
very
think
fun cameo. That is one of the highs for me was the cameo of, and this is why the world building is so good in some of this game is, William Fisk, as a cameo. Him bumping into Peter and Doc Ock in the science center.
yeah,
That was really cool cameo. Mentioning that Black Cat is still out there and she's kind of goodish, and she's not really doing evil things as much anymore. I think that's pretty cool. Those are some of the great moments. To be honest with you, Lou, this is exactly how I expected the game to be. I didn't have any higher expectations. I always thought this game was going to be like a Lost Legacy type game, where it world builds enough, but it doesn't push it forward yet. And I'm just saying, both Spider-Man games haven't even done that for me yet. They're still very good, very great stories, solid stories, but they're not a God of War Persona 5 yet, in my personal opinion. For some people, they will be. Some people don't want to dump 100 hours into Persona. Some people don't want to play God of War. They're not interested in that. But I would encourage you to try those games because you might find them better. But for some people, Spider-Man, this is their game of the year. This is awesome. It's fun, and once you start web swinging and doing Venom dashing and then Venom jumping and then Venom punching everyone, it's really cool. It's really fun. Like it's a really fun combat system. It's really cool. No, I actually really didn't have higher expectations for that. I'm just pointing out how I think about story and how I think about video games and stuff like that. If it seems like I'm being too hard on the game, that's not my intent. I'm just pointing out some of the inconsistencies I see going 3 or 4 times into this game. Even my second playthrough going into this game.
There is a lot of inconsistencies, and we talked about some of them. In terms of the little things.
And that's what makes the game great. It's not the big overall story all the time. It's the little things that make games great. The extra mileage and detail of the web swing, the throw, the crawling on the wall. It's how he can crawl on this ceiling, how he can use this gadget. Those little things are sometimes the better. And that's why sports games fail a lot, because they don't do the little things. They only care about the big thing to get you to buy the game. But they don't do the little things to push the sports game going forward, in my personal opinion. Most don't. Even though I really do enjoy the show and hockey very much lately.
Well, show did do a little thing. They made the pitches more like what they are in real life, instead of just so plain. Slider and sinker in particular, they're much different in this year's game than they were in years prior. But this is not MLB The Show spoilercast. This is Spider-Man spoilercast, so I'm not going to get too far into it.
You're good. Let's talk about Prowler a little bit, because you brought him up, because you said you really enjoyed the Prowler subplot. And I did for the most part. I just kind of hate how it kind of went back and forth a little bit in terms of... I really like him as an anti-hero. That is very different. It's very different. I like that. I really enjoyed that. He's trying to clean up his act. He wants to get back into the family. But then he kind of betrays you a little bit. But you made up a valid... Not made up, I apologize. Wrong words. You made the valid point, and I saw it going through this third time, that, he's just really trying to protect his nephew. He doesn't want his nephew to die. He thought by going to Roxxon, they would leave you alone and they just get rid of the Tinkerer and kill the Tinkerer. But that's what makes this story so great, is Miles' words and actions, where he's saying, hey, I'm a Spider-Man too. It doesn't matter. I need to stop this. I need to save people, not just let people die. And I like that. I like those moments where Miles actually grows a lot. He's the only character in this game that is not the same and is different from the end. He changes a lot. He goes through so many ups and lows. Where everybody around him is very one note. And that's what I was trying to point out. But let's talk about that Prowler side plot. What did you like about it so much?
I thought the relationship between him and Miles, I kind of see it as the way that they're going to write it for him.
Yeah.
Is he's going to try to get back into good graces, and they can either do one or two things, and it's so simple. He's going to betray Miles. Miles and him are going to fight. Or they're going to do where he's kind of like the guardian of Miles as Miles grows up, goes through his college years, and they kill him off.
Yeah, they could. I mean, that's a good point. They might do that. They could go that. I think he will be a little bit of a mentor sidekick for Miles a little bit. I think Prowler will be hanging around for a little while. I really like his suit design in this game. I don't like the Spider-Man version of the suit, though. I don't like that one as much. I thought it would look a little bit cooler. His side mission was kind of okay as well, where you find all the beats and stuff.
Yeah.
You make a valid point. Like, some of the lows are the side missions in this game. Couple missions,
That side mission, though, you want to do that one because it explains why his father had to.
Yes, that's a good point.
To stop talking to him and to basically get rid of him from his life. Well, a lot of people
know the Prowler already. They know that he's a villain. He does what it takes. He's a mercenary. He takes money. He takes bad money, quote unquote bad money, and does a lot of evil things. And I like that they kind of tore away from that. They went from more of a anti-hero type character, and I thought that was really good. That's one of my highs of the game, how they utilized Prowler for most of the game. I just kind of didn't like. They kept flip-flopping a lot. I think a little too much in this game, in my personal opinion.
Yeah.
But I think you'll be seeing him around for sure. It'll be interesting to see what they do with him. You're right. They can go 1,000 different ways with Miles going forward. It'll be really interesting. Let's talk about endgame / postgame. We talked a little bit of the ending of Finn, and the final boss fight. Finn exploding, which is pretty damn good. It's a pretty damn good ending to the game. How did you feel about the ending of the game?
I thought the ending was very good. I thought the ending was probably the best ending they've done in terms of boss fight.
Screwball isn't in the game, Joel. She's not in the game. No. Go ahead.
In terms of boss fight, I thought that was the best boss fight they've done in a while.
Yeah.
And I'll talk about Sony. There's not really that many boss fights with Sony that they do that really.
You forget about usually God of War one more time.
Well, yeah, but then after that, it's just kind of
I know I'm messing with you. They have struggled with that. Naughty Dog struggled with that a lot with their games too. Like the boss fight at the end. I thought the boss fight at the end with the last Spider-Man game was really good. I actually really enjoyed that one with Doc Ock. The personal stakes at it too. And I'm interested to see it again because it's been a little while. And I'm going to dive in and get that plat again. Lou's already diving in that Spider-Man world and playing a little bit of it. And I think you'll see. I think you'll see some of my points when you replay it again. And it'll refresh you a little bit when you play Spider-Man 1.
No, well, I already started to see it. Like, to me, I just felt like... I just feel like that they're both like different type of people. And there's Spider-Man's tier A. And Miles Morales is A-, B+.
Mm-hmm.
I just feel like
that's a fair thing to say. That's a fair thing to say. I mean,
that's kind of the way that I took it. Yeah. Maybe you bridge them together in the next game. I mean, you don't have to. I mean, you can honestly in the next game, you can say that Miles goes off to college. You don't have to like
field trip.
Well, no, not
Sorry,
a field trip.
Pete, I'm going to Europe.
No, you could just say, I mean...
It was Sincaria. I remember. Sincaria.
Silver
Sable's country.
But you don't have to have Miles... It's a good idea to have Miles in the next game.
Yeah, like
and
how
to
are they
have
going to do
the
it?
co-op option.
Part-time shifts or something? Because Miles really looks up to Peter. Like,
yes,
when he found out his bioelectricity, the first thing he asked him, are we going to run some tests, Pete? He's like, dude, I got to go. Like, I got to go to vacation. And again, that's something you got to just accept. I don't think in an actual real life circumstance that Spider-Man will just leave all of New York to a 17-year-old kid. I don't think that would. I don't think he would do that. I think your superhero responsibility would keep you there.
He said that he'd trust him. That was the key right there. That's the put over. Is that I trust you to handle the city while I'm gone.
Right. You're right about that. And plus, to be honest, there would be other heroes too, though. There would be like Daredevil and some other people. Like every superhero's in New York, right? I mean, there'd be a lot
Yeah,
of people. You see
but
Avengers Tower there. You'd see a lot of people help him
but
out in a real
in
circumstance.
in terms of Spider-Man, you could write it a whole lot of different ways if you really just want to keep Miles like separate from Spider-Man or Peter Parker's story. I
Yeah,
mean,
yeah, you
again,
could,
like
yeah.
you could, like I said, that you could say that he went off to college.
Well, he moved to
He went off to
Brooklyn. We
college,
forgot to mention not Brooklyn. He moved to Brooklyn, right? Harlem, right? He moved to Harlem.
Harlem. He moved to Harlem. Yeah,
Yeah, he's not in the big part of Manhattan anymore where he used to be, where he was closer to Peter. He's a lot farther away from Peter than he used to be. So I mean,
yeah, but
he could
that
like you
doesn't
said, he could
really
just
matter.
protect that little small section of the neighborhood there.
Yeah, that doesn't really matter, but that is a good point though. Like because what I mean by it doesn't really matter is that him being Spider-Man, he could get from Harlem to wherever he wants in New York.
Yeah,
But
yeah,
it is
yeah.
a good point though. They could write it where he's kind of like Harlem Spider-Man.
Yeah, he could just stay
So
there. Yeah, he could just hang out there.
yeah, so they could do that, but I think that would just kind of be like a cheap way to do things. You know what I mean? Like if they were to do that and you don't see him as much, if he's not involved in the story,
Yeah,
in
because I think he
Spider-Man
will
2,
be. I think he's going to be making an appearance somehow. And I got some ideas. We're going to talk about that in a second.
yeah, if you don't see him, then he could be there and then go there and go and
Yep.
Peter's story. But if you
Plus, he
don't
has
see
an
him,
unlimited subway pass.
it would be easier to write him out and say
yeah.
and say he went to college, and
Yeah, is
kind
that
of
how
keep.
you would handle it, though? Is that, he has to he's busy with college stuff, so this is Pete's
I
story?
don't know. For me, I would love to do a Miles and Peter type of co-op story,
Yeah, that's what
but
I think
uh,
that's what they're heading towards, for sure.
I would love that. But again, like there's so many like openings where you could honestly, you don't need Miles Morales in the next game. You could have Miles in another game
Yeah.
that's and just keep going with his little
I think
character
they're going to do this, because
development.
if Insomniac keeps going by this record of, every 2 years a new Spider-Man game, or like,
Hmm.
because they're a very efficient studio. They're definitely working on other stuff. There'll probably be an announcement of Spider-Man 2 pretty soon here, you would think. We
Yeah,
could potentially get a Spider-Man game every year or every other year. It's a big possibility.
yeah, we could.
I mean,
We
so
honestly
they'll
could.
have time, because again, not like you guys, like, well, the point I made earlier. Not every game needs to be full-length Spider-Man 30 to 60 hour game. You can just do a 8 to 10 hour little nice story to keep you busy, and that's what they tried to do with Arkham. Remember the Arkham series?
Yeah,
And they kind of got derailed on it a little bit. Where I think they still have done a consistent job, because it's just the one studio. It's not another studio doing it. But I let's talk about post game, because the ending of this game I did really enjoy. I think it's very good. The post game is really good though, in terms of not playtime, but one specific thing: the postcards. The scavenger hunt for the postcards. I really enjoyed that, where he hears his dad's voice again. Was awesome. The actor that plays Miles Morales, he did a fantastic job in those scenes, because he did the choke up really nicely. He acted it really well, and I don't think he not to hate on him a little bit, but I don't think they did a second recording of him swinging through the city and sounding out of breath, which was really cool in the original Spider-Man. If you're standing, Spider-Man will talk normal, but if you're swinging around, it'll sound like he's swinging and breathing a little bit. Yuri did double takes on that. I don't think they did that with the actor. I apologize. I don't know his name. He is nominated for a Game Award. Congrats to him. And I think he does a very good job overall at Miles. But I think that's just like the one thing I had. But I did really like that postcard thing. Getting the cat backpack is okay. That final side quest at the end of the game. It's Pajamas Cat or something. I forgot what they call it, that side quest. But where you get the cat and he's in the back, the other Spider-Man, quote unquote.
yeah.
That's okay. And then any other cleanup you got to do, whatever Roxxon Labs and stuff, those are cool. But to me, the real shine and the real high of the post game is the postcards. And when he puts it all together, or his dad was going to take him to this favorite restaurant, his dad was going to take him to this museum. He missed, they mentioned that he had this done for him for his 16th birthday.
Yeah.
So they did, and then they kind of retcon Genki and Finn in it, and he mentions that that's your family now, stuff like that. That stuff was really good. What'd you feel about the post game before we end off here on the last couple things?
I thought the post game was okay. The things that were in it kind of it mattered to Miles and his overall story.
Yeah.
But otherwise, everything else was just like tedious stuff to me. The side stuff and clearing the underground hideouts and you know what I mean, like that type of stuff. Were just finding out who was causing problems, and it was Fisk. That type of stuff.
Yeah, it's Kingpin.
Yep, it's Kingpin. I kind of figured that out right away, though.
You can figure it out right away. Yeah, you're right. You can figure that right away. You can figure a lot of the story out right away. You kind of see where it goes a little bit.
Yeah.
Let's talk about future and post. Let's talk post credit, and then let's talk about where they're gonna go next with a lot of this stuff. As you can see, I have Venom on my shirt. Post credit scene has Harry it is Harry Osborn, but God, why am I forgetting Green Goblin's Norman Osborn? You see Norman Osborn, you see the tank again, you see it from Harry Osborn's point of view with the Venom symbiote on him. Sees his dad, and his dad's talking to the Lizard / Kurt Connors. A lot of you would miss that if you did not have subtitles on. If you didn't have subtitles on, you don't know that's Kurt Connor. But the guy he was yelling at was Kurt Connors, which is the Lizard.
Yep.
So that was a really fun post-credit scene, and that's why the story is connected a little bit because of that, where this stuff is going on in this small part of, this town, but it's not affecting completely all of New York like the first game did. Well, the first game, Sinister Six, everybody's evil, by third act, right?
Yeah.
But I'm really excited because they're going with Ultimate Venom. It's not Eddie Brock. It's going to be Harry that's most likely Venom, or maybe the symbiote detaches from Harry and goes to Eddie Brock or something. But there's potential for Spider-Man 2 to have Venom, Lizard, and Green Goblin. And this is what fascinates me so much about this Spider-Man universe. Peter's been Spider-Man for like 6 to 8 years, and some of his most iconic villains are not even established yet. And I like that. It's very interesting. We just got Doc Ock in the last game. He worked with Dr. Octavius for many, many years. That was his mentor that betrayed him. I like what they're building. I like where they're going. Potential Kingpin comes back. A lot of others. What'd you think of that post-credit scene? Of all the post-credit scene, him having the cube and putting, saying goodbye to Finn. Him talking to the other Spider-Man, saying they're going to add stuff to the Spider-Man Oath, that they're going to work this out together. And then they swing off into the sunset, which is a cool-ass pose, by the way. I did take a photo of that. That was fucking awesome. But what did you think overall of the post-credit scenes?
I think that it's telling you that Peter Parker's story's coming.
Yeah.
I think it told you that Miles' story is ending, but was ended, and now he goes back to until his own type of storyline develops. He goes back to being Peter Spike.
He goes back to being
sidekick.
Robin. He goes back to being Robin.
Yeah, he goes back to being Robin. But we know now because of this game that he can be Spider-Man if
he can handle his own now.
Yeah, if something happens to Pete. So we know that that could happen. So now he goes back to being the sidekick. It's clear that Miles has no other attention, be the Spider-Man in New York City.
Yep.
So
Yeah,
he's
good point.
he's gonna be working with Pete. The post credit though, that was probably the only thing in terms of the game where that mattered to Peter Parker's story. And you know what? We saw at the end of Spider-Man 1 where they were going with it. And now we're seeing that we're getting close to Spider-Man 2. Yes, we're getting close. And it just opens up so many doors of where can you
let's
go.
put on our Insomniac hat, our creative hat. What's next, and what do you want from the next game? I'm gonna let you start out here because I got plenty of ideas. But where do you want it to go?
For one, I want co-op. I want co-op between Miles and Pete. I want a game where, kind of like, there's part of the story where you have to play as Miles, part of it you have to play as Pete, and they both have the similar situations that all tie in together. At the very end. That's what I want. How they're gonna do it, I'll leave that up to them because they don't pay me the big bucks.
All right, you're fired.
They don't pay me the big bucks. I just want to.
Cue up the Vince McMahon gif. You're fired. Get out of here.
You're fired. Get him out. Yeah, but. Yeah, that is one though. I've never been big in terms of like creating a whole storyline of what I would want to see. Yeah. Usually,
what villains do you want to see though? You got to have something where you want it to go. Co-op's a great point. I like
Venom for sure. I definitely want to see Kingpin, and I want from Kingpin. I don't want him to be just some sort of side mumbo jumbo type of dude.
Yeah, you're kind of right. He kind of has been. He was the first boss fight in the first game, and he is regulated to a cameo, which I like, which is good world building. Knowing Kingpin had some influence and he wanted to take over Harlem. That shows that this world's connected. He
said something
what Spider-Man's here right now. That there's the villains are still around, hanging around.
Well, he said something
including Rhino. We didn't really even talk about Rhino because I don't think Rhino's dead either.
There's something that happened when you play the first game. The remaster.
Yeah.
After he gets arrested, he says the city will not last. The city will not last longer if I'm not around, and then everything kind of just goes haywire. So
yeah.
I kind of want to see.
He has a lot of control, even though he's in a prison cell. He still he has contacts on the outside, and he has a lot of control going on.
I would like to see him be a boss, like an A or an A+ type of boss. I think they can make it work. I don't think they're gonna go there, but I would like to see that. I would really like to see that because that line stuck out to me that that the city is going to go haywire. I've got the exact terminology that he said, but as you're putting him in the squad car, he goes, "The city's is going to collapse without me," and those type of words, and everything kind of just falls apart in that game since he goes to jail. So I would kind of like to see him get put over a little bit more as a serious boss. I would like to see more, like a Daredevil appearance or a Punisher appearance.
Son of a bitch! One of mine.
Well, you mentioned it, and I mentioned Bullseye too. I know he makes an appearance in the comics. Bullseye. He killed somebody notable. I don't remember who it was.
Electro.
Is it? Okay.
I'm pretty sure he kills Daredevil's girlfriend, Electra. I think that's one of the prominent ones.
Yeah, so I would like to see, that type of stuff. That's just me.
Okay.
But,
Those are some good points. I'm with you on the co-op thing. I got a feeling if they don't do it, if they make an excuse that Miles is not hugely involved in the next game and it's just a Peter Parker game, which is fine. Whatever they want to do, I trust Insomniac that they're going to do the right thing.
Yes.
But they could do a DLC Ghost of Tsushima Legends, and what if they do a Spider-Verse a free update Spider-Verse DLC for Spider-Man 2. Not this one. They're not going to do it for Miles Morales. No chance in hell.
Well, no.
But
no.
What if they do a Spider-Verse and then they have, Spider-Man 2029 Miguel, and then Spider-Gwen you can play as, and then maybe you have Peter, and then maybe you have, maybe Penny Parker or somebody else from the whatever effing Spider-Man you want. But what if they did a similar instance? That's kind of what I kind of want to see in Spider-Man 2 if they don't do a co-op mode where you and me could swing together. What if they do a free DLC Ghost of Tsushima Legends type mode? Spider-Verse, you can go very futuristic with it. You don't really have to connect it to the universe you're in. You can have a lot of fun, right? That's what Legends does, right?
Legends. Yeah, that's what I would like. Yeah, that's a great idea.
I think that would be a fantastic idea. I would like to see some sort of thing like that. I know a lot of people don't like. Some people don't like the Spider-Gwen, but she is one of my favorite Spider people, and I would love to see Spider-Gwen. They haven't really mentioned much of Gwen Stacy in this universe, whether she's alive or dead or she's around. I think they might have mentioned her once in the first game. I don't know. There is more spiders. That post-credit scene, there is more spiders in that Oscorp laboratory. So maybe more people will get bit. We never know. I think they're going into the Spider-Verse sooner than later. But what I liked about this game, again, is that there's two Spider-Man in this same universe. And there's no weird, mystical mumbo-jumbo, right? It's semi-realistic. It's just there's these two Spider people in this world. They're going to try to work it together. One's a mentor to the other. Don't think they're going to kill off either or anytime soon. But I think I'm talking like 2-3 games down the line, I think they're going into the Spider-Verse unless they do that Spider-Verse Legends type mode that they should do and pay me a lot of money for having that idea. Another thing I want to see in the next game a little bit is what you brought up here. Better side quests.
Yes.
I think the side quests need to be interconnected a little bit more. The best side quest in the first game was Tombstone, because that was a huge surprise. You're doing all these random things, and then you finally fight and see Tombstone. I think more side quests need to be like that. They lead to Shocker. They lead to Rhino. They lead to some Florida boss fight. And have some world building in here. We have Hell's Kitchen. We have Matt Murdock's attorney office there. We have Avengers Tower. We have Wakanda Embassy. We have Doctor Strange's tower there too. I would like to. I don't know if they own the rights to any of this stuff. I don't know if Marvel is going to allow. What I heard was Insomniac had free reign to use whatever character they want, and they chose Spider-Man to do with the story on, which was a smart choice. Which was an incredible choice. At the time, there was a lot of questions because it's like we had 25 other frickin' Spider-Man games, right? What are you going to do different? But I really liked what they have done differently. They've done a really good job making their own Spider-Verse, Spider-Universe. Like what they're doing with Miles, like what they're doing with Peter Parker, like that they haven't established every single main, a villain yet. We're going to probably get Venom, Kurt Connors. Maybe we'll see some reappearances of some of the Sinister Six in Part 2. Maybe Doc Ock, something like that. That's what I like to see. Some more world building. I would like to see Daredevil help out in a side quest or something. Like, what if Daredevil came out of nowhere and helped you fight, like, Rhino or something? What if Miles helps you in a side quest? What if Prowler and Miles help you in another bigger side quest? That'd be cool as shit, right? Because if you noticed, I don't know how long you stood in that Roxxon laboratory, but if you built up a finisher while Prowler was near you, you did a combo attack, like in Arkham.
Yes, I did get that.
Maybe have some more of these characters. Black Cat, we know she's not dead, right? Maybe have a side quest with her. Bring my boy Moon Knight, man. I want to see Moon Knight in here, hanging around, just being angry and shit. Get Moon Knight in here. Maybe Blade, something. I don't know. some more world building with Marvel characters where it feels like a real life city. Another thing I would like, and I apologize if I'm rambling too much. I thank everybody for the time today, but I want to see some of those suburbs grow a little bit. Show the next big tech for the PS5. Make some of these areas bigger, because I saw a lot of people felt New York felt small in this because they already experienced it in the first Spider-Man game. But maybe make some of those suburbs bigger, world build a little bit. I think that's where I want to see them go and show that real powerful power of the PS5. And I think we really will. And I think we get a Spider-Man 2 tease sooner than later. I think it's good. We're going to see an announcement really soon, I think. And
yes.
I really feel it. And that will be it for us today, unless Lou had any more. Did you have any more that you wanted to?
No, I'm good.
Shout out to Skip to my brother from another mother. Thank him so much for joining me today. Thanks to everybody. It was good to see Joel. I know a lot of you are going to watch this later when it's posted on YouTube. I have another video up. I have another video that I will put up tomorrow for Thanksgiving. Happy Thanksgiving to everybody. We had a lot of fun. Tell us your favorite parts of Spider-Man Miles Morales. And where do you want it to go? I think Lou and I brought some great ideas on the table. Let us know that are we phony and this is the greatest Spider-Man story of all time. Let us know down below. I've been your fellow Straussman, the GG. And Lou, we're going to be outie. Make sure you smash the hell out of that like button. Comment down below. And sub if you're new. Deuces.
See ya.